Well, now more on the Eurozone crisis and the possibility of Spain seeking a bailout of its banks. Joining me from our Washington studio is Mark Bloomfield. He's the president of the American Council for Capital Formation. Mr. Bloomfield, thanks for your time. Before we talk about Spain, I just wanted to ask you about Barack Obama's comments about harsh decisions having to be taken by the Eurozone nations. How much is he playing to a domestic audience, considering it's all about the economy in terms of the presidential election? How much is the U.S. economy really affected by what's happening in the Eurozone?
1/4 of all our exports go to Europe. But there are several factors. Number one that I alluded to is the real economic impact on the economy. 1/4 of our exports, people will be able to sell less to our customers in Europe. Number two are the financial markets. If the banks fail in Spain, if there's a financial crisis in Europe, it obviously will filter onto the United States. Our stock market will fall. And that has an impact then on people's confidence, their ability to consume, their ability to invest. And third, which I alluded to, is the psychological impact. American consumers and businesses are worried. They're hoarding cash. They are nervous about the election. They're nervous about Europe. So all three factors, I think, are very much on the president's mind and the electorate's mind.
The IMF stress tests have said that Spain needs $50 billion, 40 billion euros to stabilize its banking industry. On the 17th of June, the Greeks go to the polls again. They may well elect a government that says we don't want to be part of the euro. Who's going to win the election in the United States if both those scenarios come to pass?
Well, if I were a bookie, a successful bookie, I'd make a lot of money. I think it is true, as I think about it now, that one of Barack Obama's top economic advisors, political advisors, said about a year or so ago that the Achilles heel to the president's re-election is Europe. And I think that is a factor that he can't control. He also can't control, no politician can, the American economy. When push comes to shove, I think Americans are anxious, they're nervous, and right now I would say the election is in the hands of 13 states. That will narrow to 5 states, that'll narrow to 2 or 3 states, and it's up for grabs. I will point out that in 1976, when President Carter was up for re-election, President-to-be Reagan wasn't even in the polls. It's anybody's guess, but it certainly is going to be a very traumatic and a stressful period for the electorate and the economies.
You say Barack Obama can't control what happens in the Eurozone. Does that mean there's absolutely no practical help at all that the United States can give to the Eurozone? Lowering tariffs, making sure that more imports from the Eurozone come into the United States? Is there nothing?
Well, obviously, trade barriers are an important element. I think to the extent to which the United States supports efforts to stabilize Europe, to provide capital for banks that are in trouble. I think that it can do indirectly. I think to the extent to which Europe stabilizes, that deals with the third point I made, which was confidence in the American consumer and the investor. It also affects the stability of financial markets. Perhaps it will prevent a downgrade in sovereign debt in Europe. Remember, when it rains, it really pours. And if Spain gets a bailout, that will be the 4th Eurozone country that will. Yes, the president has some effect, but I don't think any political figure can substantially affect the world economy. I remember the first time I was on BBC, there was a small savings and loan called Northern Rock. Who would have thought? Who would have known the implications of that?
Mark Bloomfield, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.